Socrates didn't hate women. He understood them. Their silence, their emotional control. You thought it was love. It was influence. And if you don't see it, you'll confuse manipulation with romance. Socrates didn't write love poems. He didn't romanticize women. He didn't pedestalize them. And he didn't hate them either. He studied them. He wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't rejected and looking for revenge. He was dangerous because he was curious, because he told the truth. While the rest of the world praised beauty and silence and sweetness, Socrates looked deeper, not to criticize, but to understand. He noticed something that still makes people uncomfortable today, that a woman's power rarely looks like force. It looks like stillness. It looks like disapproval. It looks like nothing's wrong, while everything in the room changes. You're taught to watch what she says, but Socrates watched what she didn't. The pauses, the tears that came too quickly, the moods that shifted with precision, the silence that made men unravel without a word being spoken. Because a feminine power doesn't raise its voice, it shifts the emotional atmosphere, and the man, if untrained, becomes reactive to it. He starts adjusting his tone. He starts explaining himself. He starts chasing a mood instead of leading one. That's not love. That's unconscious control. And Socrates knew it. He didn't argue with emotion. He decoded it. He watched how men gave up their minds just to be emotionally validated. He watched how easily silence could disarm even the strongest men. And he refused to be ruled by anything he didn't fully understand. That's why his observations weren't emotional. They were surgical. He didn't say women were evil. He said women were powerful, especially when their power went unexamined. And most men never examine it. They don't want to, because to examine it means risking the fantasy. It means admitting that the one thing they worship might also be the thing that weakens them. But Socrates didn't flinch. He didn't chase softness. He chased truth. And the truth was this: women don't dominate through commands. They don't control like men do. They control through energy, through emotion, through the subtle pressure to make her feel better even when you've done nothing wrong. And the moment a man links his peace to her emotional state, he's no longer sovereign. He's manageable. Socrates saw it in his own marriage. He saw it in the men around him. And he warned, not because he feared women, but because he feared blindness. Because once you understand emotional power, once you learn to recognize it without flinching, you don't fall for the performance, you see the pattern. And once you see it, you stop being ruled by it. Most men don't fall in love. They fall into emotional obedience. And they call it love because it feels warm at first, until it turns into submission. From the time you were a boy, you were taught one thing: make her happy, keep her calm, earn her affection, be polite, be soft, be agreeable, be the good guy who never upsets her. And if she's upset, it must be your fault. So you adjust, you apologize, you chase peace like it's your purpose, but that's not love, that's not strength, that's not masculinity, that's reactivity. That's a nervous system trained to bend the second her tone changes, the second her energy pulls back, the second her silence sets in. And you think you're being respectful, you think you're being emotionally intelligent, you think you're leading, but you're not leading. You're following her mood. And the worst part, she doesn't even have to ask for control. She just has to shift. One cold stare, one long pause, one wordless withdrawal, and suddenly you're spiraling. What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? What should I say? You weren't overpowered, she shifted her energy, and you bent. Not because she forced you, but because your programming told you that her emotions are your responsibility. That if she's not smiling, you failed. That if she's not overflowing with warmth, it's your job to earn it back. So you shrink, you edit yourself, you give more than you can afford just to get back to emotional safety. That's not love. It's not respect. It's not connection. It's emotional dependence. You've tied your self-worth to her approval, and now she doesn't have to lead you, because you're already trained to follow. Socrates never warned men about dramatic fights or loud women. He warned about emotional systems, where men become predictable, programmable, and peace-obsessed. He saw men worship not the woman, but the comfort her approval gave them. And that's where it all collapses, because the moment you need her emotional validation to stay grounded, you've already surrendered your center. You're no longer in control. You're no longer thinking clearly. You're reacting like a man who forgot where his spine is. This is why most men don't even realize they've lost power, because it doesn't look like control. It looks like love. It looks like kindness. It looks like being a good man, but it's not love if it costs you your clarity. It's not good if it erases your edge. She didn't take your power. You gave it away. Every time you chose comfort over truth. She doesn't need to yell. She doesn't need to fight. She doesn't even need to speak. All she has to do is go quiet, and suddenly, the whole atmosphere shifts. She pulls back, and you start to collapse. You don't know why. She says everything's fine, but it's not. The warmth is gone. The tone is colder. The affection is mechanical, and you can feel it. Not in words, in energy. That's the weapon. Emotional distance. It doesn't accuse. It doesn't blame. It just vanishes and leaves you chasing a ghost. And in that silence, you start unraveling. Not because she told you something was wrong, but because she didn't. You replay the last thing you said. You scan her texts like a detective. You overanalyze her body language, her tone, her size, and the worst part, you think this is love. You think this is what connection feels like. Uncertainty, tension, emotional withdrawal you're desperate to repair. But it's not connection. It's conditioning, because now you're not responding to a person. You're reacting to the space she left behind. This is how men get controlled. Not through dominance, but through silence. You weren't abused. You were just quietly broken by a pause, by a sigh, by a text that never came. And you blamed yourself for it. You thought, maybe I need to try harder. Maybe I upset her. Maybe I wasn't enough today. And so, you give more. You soften. You become agreeable. You stop saying what you really think, not because she asked, but because the silence scared you. This is emotional warfare, and you never saw it coming, because no one ever told you her power wasn't in what she says. It's in what she doesn't. She said nothing, and you shattered yourself trying to fix the silence. And it worked, because now she doesn't have to demand anything. You do it all for her. You self-correct. You people please. You tiptoe. She just shifts the mood. And you rush to fill the gap, but Socrates saw it. He didn't flinch when the temperature dropped. He didn't question his worth every time the tone changed. He watched. He studied. He stayed still. That's the strength modern men were never taught. The ability to hold your center when her energy tests your mind. Because when you can't hold it, she doesn't even have to push, you'll push yourself. And that's the most dangerous control of all, the kind you never see, because you walked into it trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Socrates didn't marry a soft, agreeable woman. He married Xanthippe, a woman known for being harsh, loud, and emotionally volatile. She wasn't gentle. She wasn't easy, and she definitely wasn't predictable. Most men today would call that toxic. They'd tell you to leave, cut her off, protect your peace. But Socrates didn't run. He didn't complain. He didn't collapse. He observed, because Socrates wasn't interested in comfort. He was interested in truth, and Xanthippe became his test, not of patience, but of presence, not of dominance, but of discipline. Her emotional chaos became the mirror that exposed every weak point inside him, every urge to react, every crack in his center, every place he still flinched when pressed. And rather than trying to change her, he used her as a compass, not to study her moods, but to study his own reactions. She didn't break him. She revealed where he was still untrained. Most men today would call that toxic femininity. Socrates called it an opportunity, because here's the part no one wants to admit. You don't know who you are until someone tests you. Not once, not loudly, but over and over again, in small emotional ways. Xanthippe didn't dominate Socrates. She reflected him, and he didn't try to control her. He focused on mastering himself. In real time, in the fire. That's what most modern men miss. They want peace without pressure, love without discomfort, support without resistance. But growth doesn't happen in emotional safety. It happens in emotional storms, where your habits of self-betrayal get exposed, where you realize how easily you bend, how quickly you doubt, how fast you sacrifice your truth for approval. Xantippe wasn't the problem. She was the proof of everything still unresolved in him. And Socrates faced it, without resentment, without control, without victimhood. He became a philosopher, not despite her, but because of her. She became the training ground for emotional power. She was his test, his reflection, his mirror, and through that mirror, he didn't lose himself. He found himself. That's the shift most men never make. You're waiting for a woman who brings peace, instead of becoming the man who holds peace, no matter who she becomes. Socrates didn't become strong because life was soft. He became strong because he refused to be moved by moods that weren't his to manage. So when life gives you chaos, you can run from it, or you can study it, because the real philosopher isn't the man who escapes discomfort. It's the one who uses it to reveal what's real. You're not in love, you're addicted to an image, a dream, a carefully constructed illusion you've carried since boyhood. The ideal woman, the one who never raises her voice, never disrespects you, always understands, always nurtures, always looks at you like you're enough. That fantasy was fed to you early, through movies, songs, bedtime stories. She's the reward, the cure, the emotional savior, the thing you'll finally be worthy of once you're good enough. And so you grow up not seeking connection, but seeking validation through a perfect figure in your mind. You meet her, you feel the spark, and you assume she's it. But when she disrespects you, you forgive it. When she withdraws affection, you justify it. When she manipulates you emotionally, you call it just a phase, because admitting she's not who you imagined means killing the fantasy. And most men would rather die than do that. So you stay, you give more, you silence your truth, you perform, and every time she pulls back, you chase the version of her that never existed in the first place. That's not love. That's addiction. That's projection. That's a man who's fallen in love with a ghost he built himself. And Socrates? He saw that. He didn't chase fantasies. He destroyed them because he knew if you don't kill the illusion, it will kill you. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but piece by piece. It'll kill your self-respect, your boundaries, your emotional clarity, your sense of truth, because the deeper you invest in the fantasy, the more you ignore the reality. You'll miss the disrespect. You'll defend the manipulation. You'll tell your friends she just needs time while she slowly rewrites your personality with silence, affection, and withdrawal. And when it ends, you won't be mourning her. You'll be mourning the image, the dream, the idea that you'd finally be enough if you just gave everything. That's not romance. That's psychological suicide. You weren't betrayed by her. You were betrayed by the part of you that refused to see clearly. The truth? You're not in love. You're addicted to an image you built in your head. And until you dismantle that image, you'll keep falling for versions of her that don't exist. You'll keep tolerating what breaks you because you're still trying to protect what comforts you. Socrates warned you, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. And once you stop worshiping her perfection, you finally start seeing her humanity. Not to hate it, but to stop being ruled by it. From the moment you're born, you're being trained, not in how to lead, not in how to hold frame, not in how to build truth inside yourself. You're trained to react to her emotions. Make her happy. Don't upset her. Be nice. Say sorry even if you didn't mean it. Give her what she wants. Fast. It sounds kind. It sounds noble. It sounds like love, but it's not. It's programming. And that programming doesn't make you strong. It makes you obedient. By the time you hit adulthood, you're not relating to women. You're performing for them. You think love means keeping her smiling. You think masculinity means always being her emotional sponge. You think it's your job to fix every mood, every silence, every shift in her energy. And if she pulls away, if she's distant, off, moody, cold, you don't stay still. You chase. You over-apologize. You adjust your entire emotional state just to win back hers. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery, disguised as romance. And the more you do it, the more it becomes your identity. You don't even notice it anymore. You've built a version of yourself around keeping her stable, even when she's the one destabilizing you. And that's where you lose everything. Your truth, your clarity, your energy. your edge, because now she doesn't even need to speak to control you. She just needs to feel, and you will bend. One sigh, and you soften. One pause, and you panic. One, "I'm fine," and you spiral. And the scary part, she's not even doing it on purpose. That's just how the system works. Because society didn't teach you to understand emotion, it taught you to submit to it. And here's the raw truth. If her emotions control your actions, you're not her man. You're her servant. Not through orders, through pressure, through her feelings dictating your behavior, through your identity being tied to her approval. And this is where most men break. Not from violence, but from silence. From mood swings, from energy shifts that they never learned to hold their ground against. But Socrates would tell you, real strength is not coldness. It's unshakable presence. It's holding your frame when the emotional temperature drops. It's delaying your reaction until you're clear. It's detaching your identity from her approval, so you stop living like a thermometer, always rising and falling based on her mood. So here's how you break the system. Hold frame, even when it feels like the connection is slipping. Especially then, delay reaction. Don't respond to emotional shifts immediately. Breathe. Watch. Don't flinch. Detach identity. You are not her therapist. You are not her fixer. You are not her puppet. You are a man, a conscious presence, a grounded force that doesn't move just because the wind changes. And once she sees that you won't react the same way every time, that you're not scrambling to make her feel safe while abandoning your own mind, everything shifts. Because now she's not dealing with a servant. She's standing in front of a centered man, and that's the only man who can lead her through chaos, because he's not a victim of it. Most men don't want love. They want emotional safety. They want a woman whose moods don't shake them. A relationship that finally feels stable. A home where peace lasts longer than a weekend. But here's the trap. Instead of becoming the source of that peace, they try to extract it from her. They chase her moods, her tone, her smile, thinking if she feels okay, they'll feel okay. That's not love. That's dependency dressed up as devotion. And the worst part? He believes this makes him strong, compassionate, supportive, the good man. But what he's really become is a man who no longer owns his own mind. He's emotionally trained, programmed to maintain the peace at all costs, even if it costs him his clarity, his boundaries, his truth. Socrates would have seen it instantly, because Socratic strength doesn't come from chasing calm. It comes from creating it and holding it, even when everything around you wants to pull you back into the storm. That's the difference between the emotionally trained man and the awakened man. One reacts, the other leads. One tries to earn peace through obedience, the other radiates peace through presence. And presence doesn't mean you never feel anything. It means you're no longer pulled by everything she feels. She can test, she can shift, she can withdraw, she can break down. And you don't flinch, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. This is what Socrates practiced. Not emotional avoidance, but emotional sovereignty. He wasn't trying to fix her, he was mastering himself. And when you do that, you stop chasing her peace because you've already found yours. You stop bending when she bends. You stop shrinking when she storms. You stop being the man who waits to see how she feels before deciding who he is that day, because she tests the world. But you become the one who can't be moved. And that's when everything changes, because now she can't use withdrawal to shake you. She can't use silence to control you. She can't use emotion to lead you. She either joins your clarity or drifts away from it. And either way, you remain centered. That's real power. Not loud, not forceful, not reactive, just still, just solid, just there. And in a world where most men chase emotions like dogs chase cars, the man who holds emotional gravity becomes the only one she actually respects. Not because he dominates her, but because he refuses to be dominated by her moods. Let's end this the way Socrates would have. Not with comfort, with clarity. You thought Socrates was warning you about women. He wasn't. He was warning you about blindness, because the danger wasn't her mood swings, her silence, her emotional power. The real danger was your willingness to pretend she was perfect just so you didn't have to face the truth. You weren't controlled by her. You were controlled by the part of you that needed her to be soft, sweet, gentle. constant, even when she wasn't. You ignored red flags, you called manipulation mystery, you called withdrawal space, you called your emotional collapse love, but what you really loved was the fantasy. And here's the brutal truth: if you don't kill the fantasy, it will kill you. It will kill your masculine edge. It will kill your peace. It will kill your presence. It will kill every ounce of clarity you had left, until you're just another man adjusting himself daily to keep her happy and calling that submission romance. That's what Socrates tried to show you. Not to hate women, not to run from them, but to see them fully, to admire their beauty without needing their approval, to respect their emotion without being ruled by it, to observe their power without being seduced into forgetting your own. Because when you can't see clearly, you can't lead. And if you can't lead yourself, you will always be led by someone else's moods. You'll live your life walking on emotional eggshells, trying to win peace by shrinking, by softening, by performing. And worst of all, you'll lose your ability to trust your own instincts. You'll question your gut every time she pulls away. You'll forget your truth just to earn back her warmth. You'll start calling emotional survival love, and you'll be proud of it. But Socrates wasn't here for pride. He was here for awakening. And awakening starts with destroying the illusion that love should be easy, that peace should come from someone else, that her mood should define your masculinity. You don't get stronger by chasing approval. You get stronger by holding your ground when everything in you wants to fold. That's what Socrates practiced. That's what most men today avoid, because it's easier to chase comfort than to face the truth. But the truth is simple. Clarity is greater than comfort, every time. Because comfort will lie to you, but clarity will set you free. So here's the choice: keep chasing the fantasy and stay trapped in emotional confusion, or kill the fantasy and become the kind of man she can't control with silence, moods, or sudden shifts in affection. The kind of man who doesn't just see through the performance, but refuses to play along, because you weren't born to chase mood swings. You were born to hold frame. You weren't meant to beg for peace. You were built to create it within yourself. And once you do that, you don't need her approval. You don't fear her silence. You don't collapse when she tests you. Because your worth isn't defined by her energy. It's anchored in your own. You were never weak. You were just unconscious. And now you see. And once you see, you never go back. Subscribe if you're done being emotionally trained. Subscribe if you're done chasing peace through obedience. Subscribe because you're not looking to be chosen anymore. You're choosing clarity over fantasy. And this is where your real life begins.